The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 150. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
This is the water, and this is the well.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
Yo, yo, yo.
Brett Murdoch.
Hey, everybody.
Adam Vale.
All right, people. All right, people.
And joining us tonight for episode 150, Mr. Richard Bailey Jr.
What's up, everybody?
All right. How you doing, Rich, man? You chilling, man? You good?
I'm doing excellent. Trying to stay cool over here.
Yeah, man. It's crazy.
All of a sudden, the heat just got turned back on again. What's up with that?
Well, Rich, like you had to deal with no power for a couple of days because of the hurricane, right?
That's true. Yeah.
That bullshit.
That sucked, but hey, we're back in business now, so.
That's the important thing, man. All right. A couple things before we start. Want to give a big shout out to our boy Malik Forte, man. Joined us on the last episode of Throwdown Proper. A lot of fun talking to this guy, you know. He's family, basically. So it's always good having him on, you know. And
you didn't say that deep enough. You didn't go,
why?
It's family.
Family. like Vin Diesel,
Vin Diesel, his family.
You got to take the raspy. It's like family. like my cousin, he showed that deep voice.
Yo, what?
Yo. And also, we have a kind of cool announcement about Twitch, which we'll tell you about at the end of the show, man. But we're expanding up in this bitch, man. All right, let's go. Okay, the first three of these quote unquote questions aren't exactly questions, but they're more like, I would call them grievances that the fans are having towards us. So I want to address them. You know,
grievances.
Yeah, but I did form them, as questions in the show notes. But anyway, first one is Sim Zim, aka Afro King. He goes, Chris always bags on Nintendo. Jesus, Nintendo and Microsoft, especially Microsoft, barely bring out any exclusives, but they have plenty of third parties. Nintendo said they wanted to concentrate on this year alone with one or two titles to come for next year. If you truly think that Nintendo are not prepared or is not prepared for 2018, then prepare to eat them words. Mark my words on that. Great podcast, by the way. So, Chris, this is directed towards you to take it where you want, man.
Well, okay. So I don't always bag on Nintendo. I don't know if you noticed, like the many times I've complimented them, like after I got to try Zelda D3, just last show, I said that, that the Direct showed some good stuff. Like I don't know what I know you guys don't hear when we say good things about whatever respective company that you are falling on your swords for. But whenever we say something critical of them, when they do something wrong or anti-consumer or we think is stupid, then you guys get triggered. So, of course, another example of you guys hear what you want to hear, which is fine. Like, I would like to cite a source where they said that they wanted to concentrate on this year alone. I want you to find a source of any company that says that, please, because any company that says that probably doesn't exist anymore. And two, I want to know where you heard about the titles coming for next year. So with that, I mean, either you were having a daydream and you thought you read it somewhere or whatever. And I don't really care. I guess you have a source in Nintendo that they're prepared for 2018. Maybe Reggie's doing some pull-ups. I don't fucking know what you think is going on, but I tell you, they're a company who is teetering on the verge of being out of this business, and I'm not going to change my mind until I see their finances turn around. I sat here and read a whole financial report for you guys. I showed you the numbers, I plotted the graphs, and I showed you what's trending. So unless I see this spectacular finances and whatever, then I'll eat my words. But until then, until I see that trend up, which it may turn around, I'm not I'm not going to agree with you. Absolutely not. Like, I don't know where you're getting this information from. Like, you pray over a Mario candle or whatever, but that's called faith. That's not reality. In reality, where the rest of us are, they're not doing too hot, except that now they have a system that is actually selling. But if that trend continues, then yes, they'll be in a good place.
All right. Next grievance here is from Multiple Man. 910. First one here is for you, Manny.
Whoa!
So he
Someone
goes,
has a grievance with me. I'm
Yes.
the good son. Oh, okay.
So he goes, Emilio, checkerboard rendering is not the same as upscaling. If it were the same as upscaling, then your Photoshop analogy would be correct, but it's not. So,
well, we did actually talk about this after the show. What is checkerboard rendering? Okay, anybody in here?
Yeah, explain it on a technical tip.
From a technical level.
Yeah.
Well,
Wait,
I guess
we have three tech heads in here, guys. Come on.
What is checkerboard rendering?
I didn't know we were explaining it.
Yeah. Yeah. Explain
what
it
is
to the
checkerboard
folks.
rendering?
Yeah.
I don't know, Carlos, you want to explain it?
High level, it's kind of like and don't quote me because I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
It's like when you have a different resolution and it gets upscaled. So for example, like they're talking about, oh, you can play Call of Duty in 4K, but it's not getting rendered in 4K. It's getting rendered at a different resolution, and there's like mixes and matches between the resolutions. Sometimes it varies. Sometimes it can be dynamic resolution, but it's not always at a constant native 4K when they say like.
Can I also throw in that checkerboard rendering generally renders pixels in 2x2 squares. So even if it's technically 4K with checkerboard rendering, it's 4K, but it's not 4,000 individual pixels. It's 4,000 individual pixels blocked into groups of 4. So they're not.
So essentially, what we're saying here is that it's an interpolation, right?
Yes, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same like sort of process as interlaced. Like how we have like 1080i and 1080p. Mm-hmm. 1080i is the same resolution as 1080p, except not all of the pixels are getting like processed individually. Some of they're interlaced.
So, which means that there's some sort of essentially simply it's an interpolation. What is nearest neighbor? What is bilinear scaling, and what is bicubic scaling? When you do it in Photoshop, it's an interpolation by Photoshop of what the image will be at a larger size. So therefore, they are both the same. If there's any sort of interpolation happening within software or whatever you're using, then if it's not officially, it is not a 4K image, and that is it, plain and simple. If it was totally just throwing a 4K image on there, not upscaling an image that was 1080p up to 4K, then that is a 4K thing. So it's upscaling it. So there is
it's not standard upscaling, but it's upscaling it.
It's still a form of upscaling. So officially, yes, you can say it's you just going bicubic or bilinear in Photoshop, and your program is your software is figuring it out and drawing the image at a larger.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The end result is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes out with something that is good at emulating and is almost as good as actual 4K, because a lot of times, like, I'm not sure exactly how it works down to this finite level of detail, but they will checkerboard those images, but they'll alternate the checkerboard while keeping a memory of the previous one. Mm-hmm. So as they're alternating between frames, the old frame's actual pixel memory is being held and then overlapped with the new one. And
It's
so
kind of
essentially
like-
what you're getting is the same effect.
Mhm.
But keep in mind, when we're using it in terms of benchmarking performance or power of a thing, while you may get the same result, that is not indicative of having the same power under the hood. So we can talk about the end result of checkerboard rendering and why it's a good workaround, but it's still a workaround and not a good baseline for computational power, which is the reason why we kind of call it out. It's not like it's a terrible thing. It delivers a good end result, but it does so through being a workaround.
Yeah, so a lot of the same techniques are used when in certain types of video, where where they're upscaling video from your television upscales the video from one resolution to another. It does this a very similar thing where it keeps similar pixels around from the last image, and it so.
Don't those high gigahertz TVs do that same thing where they can take something that's broadcast in essentially 30 frames a second, and it smoothens it out by creating, after images and overlapping them to create middle frames.
Yep,
and that's why
like what motion flow does, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you have a whatever 1800p rendered game and you're trying to fill a 4K television screen, there's no way to fill up all of the pixels without upscaling. That's pretty much simple. That's like the best way you can think of it. So it is a form of upscaling.
So there we go.
Yeah, and most people are putting actual 4K textures in their game just to dumb them down for 90% of their audience. I'm sorry, it's not cost effective yet.
All right, let's move on, because again, these are just little grievances. They're not the actual official questions. The last one from Multiple Man is he has a grievance with Carlos. Hey, Carlos, this is your new boy now, man. I'm going to take a guess that he's a Sony guy, by the way.
How is nobody mad at me this week?
Yeah, I don't know, Brett. Don't worry. Give it time, man. Okay, so he goes, quote, this is what Carlos said, at least this year. Carlos, can you be more biased? I already provided verifiable evidence that you're wrong with that bullshit narrative. You even replied to me yesterday, and I did respond. Sony's been pushing out more games and quality exclusives than any other console every year of this generation so far. I've already provided the yearly figures. Please provide more than your bias to support your claim.
So bias, I don't know what he means. So
all right,
when he says,
your claim was that Sony, is finally using a lot of exclusives this year.
Yeah,
that's what he's saying.
So if you ask me who has the most quality exclusives this generation, I would answer the PlayStation 4. So that's just number one. I don't like that. Just throws down whatever the hell he's talking about. Number two, what I was referencing during the show was Tony was talking about how he's giving props to Nintendo for releasing quality AAA exclusive games every month since the release of the Switch. And he said that, like, we can't say that about other consoles, and I'm not talking about Sony. And then I said, well, we can say that about Sony, like, until this year, because until this year, they weren't releasing AAA games every freaking month. I mean, you couldn't say that last year. Last year was like Uncharted came out, and there was like a dead period, and then like Metal Gear came out, and there was like a long time till we got to like Last of Us.
Metal Gear's not even
yeah, exactly. So like, I don't understand why I'm getting labeled as a Sony hater, and my bias. I mean, again, if you were to ask me what's my console of preference this generation, I would say the PlayStation 4. So am I still biased to you? I don't understand. So like, get with me on Twitter. Like, we can get into a conversation. If you think I'm a Microsoft hater, I mean, if you think I'm a Microsoft fanboy, I mean, I could point you to several clips where I shit on Microsoft, even like at the release of the Xbox One X. But just because I'm a fan of a console doesn't mean that I'm gonna blindly praise everything that it does. If they release something that's worth criticizing or pointing out factual information, then I'm gonna do it. Like, I do that about the Switch, I do that about the PC, I do it about everything. So Yeah, if I said anything that was factually incorrect and you didn't provide any evidence, I sent a reply like 4 days ago and you still haven't responded. So I'm assuming that you couldn't figure out anything to say or you're busy. But I'll give you credit and say you're busy. But provide evidence to whatever I said was incorrect, and we'll start a conversation.
Can I point out a parallel here? There is a difference between being a nationalist and a patriot. Being a patriot means that you should scrutinize and try and change the things about your country that you don't like. Being a nationalist is blindly following anything that comes down the pipeline and taking it as gospel. Patriotism is good. Nationalism is bad. These same principles can be applied to the realm of fandom. Just because you criticize somebody, and in a lot of our cases, we criticize, like many angry nerds, when we love. So just because somebody says something or because we talk shit about the decisions of a company, that doesn't always mean that we hate them. Sometimes it comes from a place of us really enjoying something and not wanting to see it turned toxic or broken down or lost or forgotten about or taken advantage of. Being a fan of gaming sometimes means defending gaming. And that doesn't make people a fanboy. That kind of means they have integrity on a certain level. And if you are willing and open to have these discussions instead of just plugging your ears and going la 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 la, that's the difference between a fan and a fanboy. And a fan, good. Fanboy, not productive.
Yeah, and I mean, let me go back to the whole PlayStation thing. I have a PlayStation 1. I had a PlayStation 2 before I sold it. I currently have 2 PlayStation 3s. I have 2 PS4s, a PS4 Pro and a PS4 Pro.
All right, we get it. You hate Sony.
So yeah, man, like you still think I'm biased against Sony? And let me get back at it. So like I have like going back to Nintendo, just in case, I just want to hedge my bets right now. So it's like I've had every Nintendo console that ever came out, except Virtual Boy. And you can understand why I didn't get that. I've had every Microsoft system. I've had every Sega system. Yeah, I still have it.
Okay, I just want to point out to everybody, from the guy who's apparently drank the fucking Nintendo Kool-Aid, I didn't have a Wii U.
Yeah, so like, man, I even have a tweet that I said. I remember sending it to like the people in the chat, and the Throwdown chat. It's like, I sent a tweet when I bought my Wii U. I'm like, Nintendo's not gonna die on my watch. It's like,
yeah. By the way, you also have a Vita too. By the way, you fucking hater.
Yeah, and I have a Vita, and I still have my PSP. So I don't know. Get at my level.
I just feel like he might be a little bit offended about just any sort of negative talk about
that's
console choice.
That's the problem with all these grievances.
That is a problem with all the grievances. It's like you have to be able to stand back and look at the whole view of a console or way these guys are doing these things, and look at things for what they are. You cannot say that something like the Gaikai service that they have, right, is any good at all. I'm sorry, nobody wants that stuff.
PlayStation Now.
PlayStation Now. Yeah. Are you going to say that thing is successful? Are you just because Sony makes it? Just because Sony is on top at this moment in time doesn't mean that they always have the best decisions in mind,
or that we'll always follow them.
And they will always follow them. If any generation is an example, it's the generation before this. For the transition from the PlayStation 2 to the 3, they were on top, and they fell the minute they started to show their hubris about how you need to get another job to buy a PlayStation 3.
I always remember that shit.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Let's move on, man. I want to get to the actual questions now.
Yeah.
All right. G Megaforce 123 starts us off with, has quote unquote voting with our wallets actually ever worked in gaming? People always say that if you don't like something in the gaming industry, to vote with your wallet and don't support the publisher of a game who bothers you. Well, I have avoided buying games with abusive microtransactions and DLC practices, as well as nonsensical SJW themes. And the practice of these is just getting worse every year on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. What gives? Is quote unquote voting with your wallet really an appropriate thing to say, given how many consumers there are who enjoy this hobby and engage in such idiotic behaviors, as in abusive or horrible publisher practice ever been reversed for the gamer? I can't think of one instance where it happened. Can you?
Mass
Great
Effect.
fucking question. Great fucking
A bunch
question.
of them. I have one.
All right, go ahead.
$10 online pass. Remember when that was a thing where when you bought a game, it's like, oh, you still have to pay $10 online if you bought it used. That didn't work, and so they voided it out. They're like, all right, forget that.
Oh, that's a good one. I forgot about that shit.
Yeah, a lot of people forgot, but that was a thing, and then they realized that it wasn't working. That people just said, fuck it, then I won't go online, and I won't get your DLC because that requires me to go online to go buy some more shit. So fuck it, I'm not doing it. They're like, oh, okay, this didn't work.
Yeah. Hey, Rich, man, jump in here. Have you ever heard of an instance where voting with your wallet actually stopped like a bad practice from being enacted?
That's a very good question. I haven't heard of any instance. I believe Adam's answer is yeah. That's a very good one. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say. I got to think about that one a little bit more. But I have another
one. I have another one.
Damn, Adam, really? Because before you go on, because I came in here going, I have no examples at all. Usually,
Really?
Usually, I am speaking for me personally. Every time I've seen, and Brett, I'm actually going to use you. Look at your whole crusade with Batman, right? Cape Crusader. I know that's ironic. You were like, I'm not buying this fucking game because of this bullshit. The game still sold fucking millions, and they had like 2 seagulls afterwards. So I'm like, that's a perfect example of like shit you don't like, and you not supporting it, but it still gets done anyway. And then just to kind of
to be fair, I always said that I was on the losing side of that one. I knew going into it, I knew I wasn't going to change anything. That was a personal principle. I refused to do this.
Yeah, but you see what I mean, though. It's like the game still sold, but you did, you did say that you knew it was going to help. But I'm going to kind of foreshadow a question we have earlier on, or later on. EA Access, right? That kind of shit. I'm not for. I think it sets a bad precedent, but everybody's on that EA Access shit. So my little protest doesn't really matter. Or even things like, hey, I don't want to buy these fucking Dynasty Warriors games. I think they're trash. They still get made, so
they still get made, but games like Evolve fall off so quick. Like that, when you violate what the community has already put forth, oh, we're gonna
what did Evolve violate exactly besides just being not having any features?
Well, no, it was super overpriced. Yeah. Look, the special edition of Evolve was $120.
And you still didn't get everything.
Yeah, for one multiplayer mode game with no single player, it was $120. Like that broke every precedent. Like that really broke people. And guess what? Like now that's done.
People aren't trying that shit anymore.
Yeah, people voted with their wallet on that one too.
Another one.
And Evolve was in the midst of a few games like that. Like it wasn't the first one that was just like, a very thinly veiled full price game with microtransaction. The community went nope, but they noped Evolve so hard that I haven't seen another game try that shit for at least a couple, or at least since then.
We just seen the Friday 13th.
Look at the Souls series. Look at all the Souls games that are the Souls-like games that are coming out because so many people bought Souls or Bloodborne.
But that's still reversed, though. We're talking about
No, that's voting with your wallet. But there is the other side too.
Yeah, I guess that
games that you buy, games that you support that make so much money that suddenly they're like, well, I guess we're going to keep making games like this. For those of you who have been with us for a while, I used to talk about a little game called Daisy. Daisy was the first multiplayer open world survival game, and people loved that shit. It was poorly put together, but people liked the concept so much that they bought into a broken, janky game. They voted with their wallets, and they showed very clearly that this was something that they wanted. And that message was heard so loud that when even when Daisy collapsed on itself due to just being spectacularly idiotic and never releasing a not broken game, other people saw the money that had been made with that, and it actually helped to create a new genre of game that we're seeing on PC now. Fortunately, consoles aren't strong enough or aren't powerful enough to run these types of games yet, but I'm imagining that they're going to become more and more of a thing, and that's why Ark came out. And Ark was also wildly successful. I mean, we're talking, millions and millions of dollars made. Like this game is making money hand over fist, and it popularized the whole battle royale thing, where you have a bunch of players that get on a map, and the map starts shrinking until everybody's dead. And oh look, that game mode is suddenly the new flavor. So you can track it all the way back and see that people supporting certain features in games are getting really excited about things can bleed back into the mainstream, and through generating revenue, make other companies emulate that kind of thing. I mean, I'm loving Absolver right now, and that game obviously would never exist if Dark Souls and Bloodborne hadn't been as lucrative as they are. So,
yeah. By the way, just to be fair, though, reading the question again, it does specifically say what bad business practices have been reversed, not positive ones, because we could say like
I don't see an Order 2 anywhere on the books.
Yeah, that is true.
That game actually did
but
well.
But that's not a business practice. It's just people, didn't like the game.
I got another one. Season passes.
Go ahead.
A lot of them are giving up season passes. Ubisoft is giving up season passes. A lot of EA games are talking about giving season passes. Remember, look, we just saw Battlefront the season pass given away for free, and that's because when Battlefront 2 comes out, there is no season pass.
We don't see games. We don't see. Speaking of the Batman game, yeah, I get that, but we don't see games locking you content behind a paywall if you don't put in the code proving that you bought it new. Used games don't really have.
That was that $10 code.
Yeah. So like you don't see content locked behind paywalls anymore, which honestly, in fairness, was the very thing I was protesting. So, win.
Well, the thing with season pass is that it divides the community. So then you have the people that have the new DLC, so that when they want to play certain maps stuff, and then you have the people that don't, and that's not what they want.
Mr. Adam, he cut out. Anyway, I guess that's a good time. I want to move on to the next one. I think we pretty much got enough here. All right. His next question is kind of fun. Name a game that puts you to sleep while playing it. The only game that literally made me do this was Xenosaga on PS2. I expected an epic story and great gameplay reminiscent of Xenogears. What I got was hour-long cutscenes, psychology students' homework disguised as a plot, and mediocre to plain bad gameplay. During one of the hour-long cutscenes, I put the controller down and watched, but actually fell asleep before it was over. Funny thing about Xenosaga, I remember me, Chris, and Manny, we went to a concert. I think it was Symphony X at Lemore's, right? We came back, and I'm like, I'm gonna go upstairs and play Xenosaga. And Chris like, you mean you're gonna watch Xenosaga? I'm like, touche, good sir. So. To answer the question, no, I've never fallen asleep playing a game, but I've never fallen asleep watching TV either. It's like if I'm watching TV, I can't fall asleep like that. Again, I'm one of those guys. I'm a very light sleeper. Things need to be. I need to either be deprived of sleep for a week. That's the only way I could fall asleep on my chair. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I need to be in bed. It has to be a certain temperature with white noise or whatever filling the room for me to fall asleep. I cannot fall asleep watching TV, and I can't fall asleep playing a game. I could be tired as shit, all fucked up, but can't fall asleep. What about you, Rich? You ever fallen asleep during a game before?
Yeah, I'm gonna take this opportunity to give a special shout out to Mr. James Kennedy, because I played Dead Space 3 with him and fell asleep multiple times playing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now I am a fan of the franchise, but I didn't like the third one. So I guess that was why I fell asleep.
That's hilarious. I guess you didn't like it then. That's right. All right, Manny, what about you? Ever fallen asleep playing a game?
I usually kind of preempt any of my falling asleep, but I did fall asleep on the Guilty Gear story mode from the first game. Well, officially, because if you ever played Guilty Gear Exard Revelator, the first one, right? There's this really long story mode. It's like an hour long or more, 2 hour animated cutscene that they show you with all the game graphics and stuff. And I fell asleep on that. But if you guys know how long my hours are per day, you kind of make a lot of sense because I was exhausted. So watching that while being incredibly exhausted, I fell right to sleep. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Chris, man.
Oh, I've fallen asleep playing plenty of games.
I know which one.
Oh, you could say Mass Effect 2 with the planet scanning, because I was trying to scan every freaking planet in the galaxy. and I would fall asleep doing it because it's like the most boring part of the game.
It has
And,
that soothing music too.
And it has that, the space music.
And it's slow as hell too.
Yeah, so I fell asleep that. I used to work long hours. So I'd come back and play a game like Metal Gear Solid 4 and I'd fall asleep. Like I'm like the worst person to ask about falling asleep because I've fallen asleep playing some fantastic games where I shouldn't fall asleep. But the one game I will say I did fall asleep at where I wasn't really tired but it was just boring as hell was No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky will put you to sleep. If you have insomnia, go play No Man's Sky and you'll fix it.
Oh man.
One thing to add to Chris's thing, like me and my girlfriend's room and his room were like, on the other side. So his television was on the wall. Our wall. We always noticed that, like, I mean, it wasn't really that loud, but when it get really, quiet at night, we could hear the scanning music,
I would just loop because I was passed out.
That's hilarious. All right, Carlos, man.
I can't remember falling asleep, but I was definitely dozing off when trying to get the survivalist trophy in Final Fantasy 15.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man, because I was holding just the run thing so I can just run and get all that mileage with the character.
Yeah.
And then I found out that I should have just gotten like rubber bands and tied the thumbsticks together and
Oh man, I've done that in games before. Put the rubber band on, go to sleep, wake up the next day, you get a trophy. All right, Brett, what about you, man? You ever fallen asleep playing a game before?
Man, there have been games where I've played until I'm about to pass out. Man, I hate to say this, but glad Brian's not on the podcast tonight because Dragon's Dogma is probably one of the few that come to mind.
He'll rise out of the ground. Those are fighting words.
Brett, those are fighting words.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying it wasn't for me. Also, I got bored as shit with The Witcher. Also, not a bad game. Just
Where's Brian?
How could you fall asleep on The Witcher?
Because it's fucking boring.
Hey, Brett, listen about Dragon's Dogma. I never fall asleep during it, but I didn't think the game was very good either, bro. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
It was like I
played that demo.
That demo was fucking terrible. I'm like, what is this shit? It's like a rip off of a Western game, but done wrong.
It's also very quiet and like a lot of menus and waiting around because of the day-night cycle. Like, oh, you don't want to go out at night. Like, Jesus. So I get the immersion, but it only works if I'm having fun.
Yeah. All right, Adam, what about you, man?
Never fallen asleep playing anything.
All right, my man's like, I stay attentive.
That's it. There's no point. I mean, TV, yeah, watch the TV. So playing a game. I mean, I only had one buddy. We were playing Halo 3 Legendary, and there was a day it came out. We were all four of us playing. We were like, we're gonna beat this, and we were moving. And we noticed that one guy just was never moving. He just kept bumping up, and we kept telling him, was Calvin was like, "Yo, Calvin, wake up!" Like, what? Oh, what? Like the freaking dude fell asleep while we were playing, And I mean, I think he wound up, beating with us and not really being awake.
That's hilarious, man. Yeah, the thing is with me, video games, they help keep me awake because you're paying attention. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I guess during those long ass cutscenes, maybe, but never really had that problem. All right,
so
let's move on.
Can I ask the people not having this problem? This may sound like a stupid question, but what do you do when you start to get sleepy and you're playing video games? Do you just stop playing video games?
Yeah, turn the game off. Yeah, find a save point, turn the shit off, get to bed.
Oh no, see, some of us power through that shit.
Nah, fuck that. I mean, I've done it sometimes, the powering thing, but if it's like 6 a.m., it's like, Tony, you stopping this shit right now, man. You got to go to bed, son. Yeah, sometimes I've powered it, but most of the time I find a save point or, just leave it in sleep mode, get the fuck to bed, We got work in the morning,
That's the one. That's the one good thing about the sleep mode now. It's like,
yeah, man,
you almost don't need to really save anymore.
Before you had no choice but to power through until you got to a save point. You had no choice. Now it's like, fuck it, I'm going to sleep right now. I'll turn that. Just pause it and that's it. Put it in sleep mode. It's fantastic. All right. So next up, here's a new name, Archangel 1971, man. Hello, sir. All right, so okay. Considering how well the Switch is doing in spite of having supply issues, what percentage of these sales are to the hardcore and what percentage are to the casual or mainstream gamers? Very good question, my friend. So yeah, what do you think makes up the bulk of Switch's audience? Hardcore or real gamers or casuals? I don't know how to answer this, man, because
this is also a weird question, because remember, Switch sales are not counting actual Switch sales, like to customers.
Yeah, they're selling whatever's shipped.
They're counting whatever's shipped or how many GameStop has ordered.
Yeah,
but they're selling out of supplies in a matter of hours.
Depends. I still hear dudes tell me, look, I go to my store, there's still a whole stack of them, So I don't think that
somebody proved to me. Somebody proved to me that you've seen a Switch sit on a shelf for more than, let's say, 72 hours. Because I would like to see just someone that has had stock 4 days, because the longest I have heard is that in some very rural areas, they'll keep them for almost like a day and a half.
Yeah, that's a challenge, people. Brett has issued a challenge.
Yeah,
please. I hear these European guys tell me, yo, I go to the store all the time. They always have Switches, man. Those shits ain't selling. So, okay, prove it,
I think it depends on the market. That's all. There's certain markets, people are into it, and other ones, no one gives a shit. That's the way it is with most things. Look at it in Japan. No one cares about Xbox.
Can we use Amazon for a bearing on everything else? Why can't we use it as a bearing on this?
And they're up there. I see a bunch of them up there. Not at the $299 price, but there's a bunch of
percentage here. What do you think the percentage is? Is it more casuals? Is it more hardcore? Who is buying this thing?
It's got to be more the hardcore guys.
Why do you say that?
Because it's there. You have to actively be looking for one. I don't think there's a whole lot of people being like, oh yeah, Switch. I think about getting one of those. I'll come back in a couple days, maybe get paid on Friday. No, motherfuckers jump on that shit. The way that I'm seeing them selling and not staying in an inventory, and again, doubling down on the challenge. It's got to be the people buying them are the people looking for them. And the fact that the only way that you can find them online is way above markup, which means that they are still selling for $100 more than Nintendo is asking, which means people are willing to pay, what are they, 400? Yeah, they'd be $400. People are still willing to pay $400 for one, $100 above market value, which means that by the laws of supply and demand, they are in demand. So the proof kind of seems to be in the fact that, I'm generally taking a lot of my stuff by Amazon. The second that you see actual stock sticking on Amazon for regular MSRP, then I will believe that that they've met the supply. But until then, I'm pretty sure that every Switch sent out of the factory is sold within a couple of days of hitting store shelves. So I would say that those figures shipped are pretty close to figures sold.
Yeah, hey Brett, your soapbox is saying I'm in Dallas and these Switches stay in stores in certain places here.
Do they?
That's what he said. I'm reading the chat right now.
Now, is this that you're seeing them stay in? Because I'm not there. I'm curious if he's seeing them stay in stock or if he just sees them coming into stock. Are you walking by and seeing them and then coming by again in a couple days and seeing them? Or are you just being like, oh yeah, man, they had 12 at Target the other day when I was there. Yeah, no, I believe that. A lot of times they just put out stock. I've seen pictures.
Anybody got friends that work on Best Buy or?
Miguel Perez says I've seen 4 or 5 sitting at Walmart.
But if they stayed there, that's my question.
Yeah, okay. I guess these guys need to answer that. But anyway, Chris, what do you think about the percentages? Who's buying this thing?
I would say the casuals have fallen off after the Wii. The casuals have fallen off. So I agree with Brett. It's definitely a higher ratio of hardcore to casuals. Now, I don't know where technophiles fall into that, because there's people who just need gadgets, they need this shit day one. So I don't know where those guys fall, and they could be either or. But I think more gamers bought this one, whereas the Wii had a inverse ratio of casuals to the core gamers, you know, because Nintendo then was catering to the evergreen titles, and the blue ocean was in full effect then. But now I think it's swung back to catering to gamers, right? Not grandma. So
Yeah. By the way, quickly, Brett, do me a favor. Jump in the chat and talk to this man because he's saying that he's seen him for days and shit. So jump in there and talk to him. Here's the thing.
I'll be in a minute. I'm hanging out with the crickets.
Okay, cool. Okay, again, just from my experience, all the people I know that have a Switch are actual gamers. So I'm gonna say mostly because you guys said it right there. I think most of the casuals, they bowed out after the fucking Wii, and then, but there is a good amount of technophiles out there that are buying it just because they got to have the shiny, but yeah, I'm going to say most of the people buying them are hardcore. And this is my kind of, it's anecdotal or whatever. Look at the way these games are selling, right? Even fucking remasters are selling like crazy, right? People who buy Switches are buying games for them. Casuals don't buy games. They get whatever game comes with the system, and this game doesn't even come with a game. The system doesn't even come with a game. So I'm gonna go with that too. Every game has fucking sold, to my surprise, So yeah, I'm gonna go with hardcore is buying this. I don't know percentages. Obviously, I don't work for fucking Nintendo, but I'm gonna say it's more the hardcore buying this shit. Rich, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think that I have to agree that I also think it's hardcore. However, I will say this. I believe that when Mario drops in October, you may get more casual people now all of a sudden pick it up for that reason.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I mean, casual in terms of like like we always said, Mario is a more approachable game than the others that have come out. Like way more approachable than Zelda.
Yeah, for sure.
But Mario is not on a casual level as we fit.
Yeah.
So where that's anyone could pick that up. So there's definitely levels.
I'd say Nintendo learned from us voting with our wallets on that one because they learned grandma doesn't buy fucking video games.
That's hilarious, man. All right, anybody else want to jump in on that? All right, that's a no. So we'll move on here to.
I do want to say between topics, since I haven't had a chance to jump in the chat yet. For all these people saying that they're sitting on shelves, I pose you this question. Why are you not buying them and marking them up and selling them on Amazon while there is such a high demand for them and they are selling for $100 above MSRP? You do realize that's free money, right?
Well, a lot of those that are selling them are actually selling with other stuff, like games and other things. They're doing add-ons.
That soapbox says that he thinks the majority of people buying Switches are doing exactly that.
Oh, flipping them? Oh.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but because they're flipping the NES Classic, but this shit, not that much.
Can I make one note before we move?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So to the guy who had the first grievance and to everybody else, just note, write it down. I agreed with Brett on a Nintendo thing. Okay. Can you mark it on your calendars? Whatever you got to do. All right.
Yeah. I said this in chat, but I'll say it out loud now. Yeah. I think I need to make the distinction between people. Chris has not been a huge fan of the company Nintendo for a while now, and part of that has to do with the fact that he worked for them. Now, just because he's able, like a good adult, to set that aside and make judgment calls based on the statistics in front of him doesn't mean that he's not allowed to have a personal opinion. In fact, I respect him for, saying like, yeah, I still don't necessarily like them as a company sometimes, but they did right here. That takes a big man to give respect to somebody that you're not necessarily happy with. So I think you guys are getting the wrong idea. Chris is being an adult and trying to judge things objectively, but that doesn't disqualify him from having his own opinion. And yes, sometimes that opinion will shine through. Sometimes you will see it, but that doesn't mean that the facts that he brings to the table aren't fair to bring to the table. He has had a long history of being fair in these discussions and setting aside his personal opinions. So don't crucify the guy for having personal opinions. We're all fucking human. And he goes above and beyond to make sure that those get set aside for a lot of these fanboy discussions. So I think you guys are focusing on the wrong thing here. Tirade over.
Yeah, Brett, stick around because this next question is kind of directed at you. And it's by your soapbox too. So his first question is, I believe that Brett has said in one of the live comment section on Throwdown that he finds a lot of hackers in the games he plays on PC. If I remember correctly, he then listed off a few early access survival games like H1Z1 or DayZ. Now, while I won't deny that PC will have more hackers because of how open the platform is, I will bring up the point that saying that there is a huge amount of hackers when you play these kind of games is a little disingenuous. I have had a lot of run-ins with lag switchers and hackers while playing on console, but it would be disingenuous of me to say that consoles are riddled with these people. So the question is, what is worse for you, when people cheat on PC or when they cheat on console? Reason I ask is because I expect there to be more security when my online gaming experience is placed behind a paywall that shouldn't be there in the first place. A lot to unpack there. All right. Correct me if I'm wrong in this panel right here. When have you actually seen hackers in a fucking console? Maybe I'm stupid. I've never experienced that in my life.
I was one.
I mean,
Damn right. Did it with a bunch of games. Did it with man, even on the 360 when we were doing it for achievements, there was ways of transporting save files.
Yeah. Muling is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, explain this to me, because again, I'm reading this. I'm like, has that happened?
There's a lot of gray area in cheating. Think of it this way, Tony. Is it cheating to download a save file of somebody who's already got 99.9% of the way through the game and has all the items unlocked, and then load that save file as your character in your game? And is it more cheating to do that in a multiplayer game than single player game?
That's a good question. But I'm talking about, like, your favorite aimbots. Do they have aimbots on consoles?
No, they don't have aimbots on consoles.
See, that's the kind of shit I'm talking about.
Let's say you were playing, let's say Persona, right? You put in a lot of time in Persona 5, and let's say a buddy came on and said, "Yo, I already beat it," and you see he got the platinum, and he only played 2 hours. Then what? You would get pissed, right?
Yeah, he definitely hacked. But the thing is,
I get less pissed than
Persona is a single player game, though. So
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He's getting all the trophies.
But that shit doesn't really count, though. It's not affecting anybody else.
It's not like Steam cards where you can actually trade them for currency or anything of value. But let me unpack a little bit of the question here. First, I need to point out most of the games that I play on PC are these open world survival games. They're most of the time when I choose to play on PC, I choose to play games that I can't play on console. I prefer a controller set up in my couch to my desk chair and my keyboard. I'm like Manny in that way. It's just the way that I roll. But I like the bigger, more expansive games, and I love open world survival games. A lot of that genre is still in the alpha state. So yes, you do hear me talking about a lot of those, but that's because I play an overwhelming amount of those types of games on PC as opposed to single player experiences. 9 times out of 10, if it's a single player experience, I'm going to do it in my living room setting. That being said, that is a very specific kind of cheating that involves breaking the system. A lot of these games that do that save certain assets to the player, and they manipulate the world environment to either spawn things in because the server is basically pinging the player to say, well, what's around you? And that gives the player the opportunity to say, all the rare drops. And then the server goes, oh, okay. Those are the most breaking and damning things. But even a quick cursory glance through the internet will show you that there are all kinds of aimbots that work for all kinds of games. There's all kinds of speed hacks, all kinds of X-ray vision, all kinds of this stuff. And a lot of times these can be overlay programs that are run aside from the game that aren't affecting the game at all. All they're doing is affecting your input. You essentially have a tiny computer who's holding your mouse with you, and every time it sees a player, it zooms over and presses the trigger. Or, you can have aimbots and trigger bots, or just a trigger bot on, so you can just sweep around, and then every time you pass over somebody's head, something in your computer goes, oh, I right mouse clicked just as soon as it went over its head. So the adaptability for cheating in online games is way higher than it is for console games. And there's the severity. Most of the cheating you're going to get in console games is muling. You're not going to get these aimbots or speed hacks for the most part. You're going to get item muling, stat boosting. The worst of them are invincibility and things like that. And yeah, I have run into these problems. Dark Souls, one of my favorite games, you'll every once in a while come against a hacker, and it is super frustrating. But the frequency of those is so much less than I've run across even outside of early access titles, which are the worst offenders. So I think I pegged on all the points, didn't I? Am I missing anything?
The only one, and this is my sidetrack thing. So the only one I kind of have a little bit of agreement is he's basically saying that PSN, Xbox Live subscriptions, they shouldn't be there in the first place. By whose rule?
Oh, wait! I just came up with some. Diablo 3. Diablo 3, you can put hacked weapons, and that affects the game.
Yeah, that's muling.
Yeah.
But muling is, I mean, essentially, while it's frustrating, it sucks coming against somebody who didn't earn their gear. It sucks even more from somebody being able to headshot you from half a mile away while you're sprinting and ducking and rolling or whatever the fuck that you're doing. Like I've played, the aimbots suck in Call of Duty. Aimbots suck in Battlefield. You know where aimbots really fucking suck is in ARC. When somebody can ping you from literally 2 miles away in the head, and you have armor on your head, so it destroys your helmet on the first shot, and then one shots you on the second shot. And you could be fucking riding a pterodactyl through the air at 45 miles an hour. I realize that I am talking about an early access game, but my point is, in these large open world environments where you have to move to collect gear, even some of these survival of the fittest that are coming along, like, oh my god, in GTA Survival of the Fittest, aimbotting must be a son of a bitch. You last 45 minutes, you wait until the it gets down to the last minute and a half, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 4 players fall because somebody's aimbotting. And yes, I just looked before we brought this up, there are GTA Online hacks for aimbotting. They're there, they are current, they are updated. So it's more of a problem on PC, and that's because of the nature of an open system. So yeah, I get that you may not agree with the being behind a paywall, but it's it's almost irrelevant. It has more to do with, one is an open system where you can freely install programs, one is a closed system where you cannot freely install programs. And I've said before, and I'd like to say it again, I would give my left fucking foot for a Steam authentication process. I don't care if it scans my entire computer, right? Like, you don't have to opt. It should be an opt-in process, a platinum or silver program or whatever, or Steam authorized player, where you, before you launch a game, or you let this sub process run in the background that makes sure that you're not running any applications with specific parameters for aimbotting and whatnot, and you're put into servers with only people who have agreed to those things. That, in my opinion, would be a way to make the online PC community vastly improved, and would put it pretty much on par with closed systems like the consoles.
I mean, I've seen plenty of cases on consoles. Like, even like, I used to be a fucking hacker. I used to cheat. Like, someone asked in the chat, like, what's lag switch? So a lot of times, well, at least back in the day, there wasn't such thing as dedicated servers, or at least it wasn't that prevalent in the consoles. And so, like, people would, like, get chosen randomly to be, like, the actual server that, like, hosts the game. So if you become that host, and you can make it so you can become the host, you can make, like, you can increase your firewall and make everyone's game laggy except for yours. So that's just one way to cheat. I used to install aimbots and, like, infinite ammo, like,
the trainers
bots.
On.
Yeah, and that shit would be annoying as hell to other people, at least. There's like, the worst thing that I could do, like, there's this game type called Assault in Halo 2. So it's like, you have to, like, pick up a bomb and arm it in the other team's base, right? So what I would do is, like, if you're holding into the bomb or you're close to it, like, the game will never end. They have to kill you, and then there's, like, a timer that'll expire, like, 5 seconds because you're away from the bomb, and then game's over. So what I would do is, there's things in Halo 2 called super jumps, and so I would pick up the bomb and do a super jump out of the map and wait for them to quit. Wow. So sometimes,
you're a monster.
Yeah, man. Sometimes, like, that's a slow death, man. Like, they would, like, people would be so stubborn that they wouldn't quit So it's like, okay, I'm leaving my fucking Xbox on for like 2 days. The game running still. Especially since it's a ranked match. Back in the day, like your rank was like competitive, like so that's what like made people cheat. Like, people wanted that rank. So yeah,
That's crazy.
I mean, GTA Online was so broken in the first like couple of years. I remember guys would get in there, they have invincible cars, they'd be invincible. Like
Or the money trick that happened.
There was like 1,000 money tricks. There was ways to cheat the system. Tony, remember leveling? I showed you.
Yeah, I remember that shit.
With a helicopter, it was like there was ridiculous things you could do. The worst was when people figured out how to be invincible. Like you just couldn't kill the dude.
Half of those are exploits though, and not hacks. And I think
they're exploits. Yeah, you could exploit the system. It's just like, oh, if I hover a helicopter 2 feet over this house, my level goes up for no reason. You know, it's silly things like that. You know. Or if I buy this certain car and drive it into the garage and out of the garage and into the garage, now I have 3 of them. Like, you know, and then you sell them. Like, there's things like that.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next question. We've answered this before, but you know, we'll do it again. Why not? We got Rich here anyway, so he gave his thoughts. Okay, what are your thoughts on services like EA Access? Would you like to see more or fewer services like these? Reason I ask this is because PlayStation does not have that service, and I feel it could be very beneficial to a lot of gamers on PS4. It has some pretty good value, $60 for access to a bunch of great games, early access to new games, and discounts on games that are on the service. It's super shitty that PlayStation didn't allow the service on their platform. Right. Rich, you go first, man.
All right. Well, my personal opinion of EA Access is that I don't give a damn about EA Access. Now, obviously, for those that have Xbox, I guess they will find value in the service, but it's not really for everybody because, I mean, it is obviously you do get trials with certain games, for pretty much every game. But I don't really see a real benefit to it for me personally. I know there are some that enjoy it, but I don't think the PlayStation missed out by not having it on their platform.
Yeah, Chris.
It's PlayStation's choice.
Yeah, actually, no. Yeah, Adam, since you're talking, go ahead. What do you think?
No, I think that was the whole thing behind it when they asked about it. It was like, oh, it's the only choice because EA was like, when are you going to get on PlayStation? It was like, it's PlayStation. PlayStation doesn't want them. So.
Well, honestly, the benefits he listed, like, seem most of PSN has most of those like discounted games. There's discounted games and from various publishers. It's not just EA Access is just for EA published games, right?
I think it works best for people that are into sport games and don't want to buy the sport games every year.
Yeah,
and yeah, it works out for them.
You know,
Go ahead.
Sorry, no. He listed discounted games as that you have PlayStation Plus, so you pay and you get free games every month. So there's that. So it's like to say that PlayStation doesn't offer a comparable service, I think is inaccurate. You know, at best. And I don't feel that that either Microsoft or Sony really need EA Access. I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, they don't.
And I hate fragmented services because I complain about this with streaming. Like I'm pissed at Warner Brothers that they won't give Netflix their stuff and they think they can go it alone on streaming. If fragmented streaming would be the worst idea ever, that every single studio carries their own streaming service, that'd be insane. So I think the same thing with video games.
Or kind of like what Disney's doing now too.
Exactly.
You pretty much just said what I was going to say. It's like, okay, you have EA Access. Now, on its own, EA Access is not bad, right? But what happens when you have Square Enix Access, Activision Access, fucking Konami Access? You have to buy all these fucking services just to play these games. I know I'm going to the extreme route, but don't put it behind, don't put it above these companies to do some shit like that. Oh, if you want to play EA games, you can only get them through EA Access. The same way you can only watch fucking Star Trek through CBS, shit like that. And this goes back to what I was saying before. This is a service I could easily get it on PC right now. I could easily get it on Xbox. I am protesting it because I don't like what it represents, and their service as it is now is kind of horse shit. What am I going to get out of it personally? BioWare games, they're not really doing anything right now. They're not giving me no fucking burnout. I don't care about sports games. But yeah, my whole thing is against EA. It's like it sets a bad precedent. And I'm gonna say this at the risk of sounding like a fucking pony, and I know I'm wearing a hat. I think it's a good thing that fucking PlayStation didn't allow it because they're saying no. We're not going to have this type of shit. This is bad for the industry. I completely agree with them on that standpoint. And I've said this a million times. I'll probably have to say again. EA access, not a good thing. Sets a bad precedent. And I hear the crickets, so I'm pretty sure Brett wants to say something.
I'm just wondering what's the difference. What's the fundamental difference between this and Origin?
Yeah,
Origin.
I don't know.
Well, you don't have to pay for Origin.
Yeah, and you get discounts on
Oh,
Origin
that's-
too.
Yeah,
that's
and people
true, yeah.
still didn't want to participate.
Yeah,
It's still there. I mean, people still do it. People
let's
still
just
do
be
the
honest.
movies
now.
off and everything you
The
play.
reason
People
people
still do
hype-
that stuff.
The reason people hype up EA access is because it's one thing that Xbox has that Sony doesn't, and they use it as fanboy war ammo. That's all it is about. Let's just be honest here. You know,
The thing is that I don't buy enough, at least from personally, I don't buy enough EA games for that to even, for me to even care. And I mean, especially with the fact that they're like, we're off the, you get maybe an early access to a game that's coming out, but I mean, for the most part, they're just dealing in like sports games.
EA is also
dealing
awful.
dealing in sports games, dealing in like first person shooters, and most of those games I don't care for. So I don't know. At least for me, I wouldn't at least consider that anything. But yeah, I also the same point of Tony's point. It's like when we start, and Tony and Chris's point, when we start to fragment every single video game into its own or company into its own service, you're gonna be paying shitloads of money just to play fucking games.
yeah. Who wants that?
Especially when they
shit?
decide that they want to lock. Yeah, especially if they decide to lock things behind this specific thing. If you want to talk about anti-consumer, that's totally anti-consumer right there.
Yep. There you go. Again, it hasn't happened yet, but they could do it. They will fucking do it. If they smell money, they will fucking do it.
Exactly.
They'll be like, okay, fuck it. You can only get EA games through EA access, and that's it. And then if that takes off, everybody's jumping on board. Then we're all gonna be paying like $500 a fucking year for all these services. You don't want that
I'm
shit.
surprised this person's bringing it up now. I
mean,
mean, EA Access has been around for a few years. I think it actually started like the second year of Xbox One.
yeah,
I'm
and
surprised.
we've been saying since day one we don't like the service.
Yeah.
Throwdown's never been a fan of that shit. Anybody else want to jump in on that? Take that as a no. So move on to Mr. Sean Goridi. I haven't seen his questions in a while. So he actually starts us off with a couple of comments before his question. He goes, I listen to other podcasts as well as this one. And while the other podcasts are entertaining, what really sets Throwdown apart for me is when a conversation is happening and you just want to jump in from your car whenever you're listening, just like time in, like when Brett and Chris are arguing about Nintendo, or when you wanted to yell at Adam for not liking dinosaur robots.
I know.
Yeah, thank you for that. He goes, one thing I did want to bring up, since you guys have mentioned it a lot when talking about Destiny, is it didn't cost $500 million. That's the investment Activision plan on making into the IP as a whole. He also listed a source. Also, I think that it was hilarious. Adam was criticizing. Adam, get ready for this one. He goes, I think it was hilarious. Adam was criticizing the grind to be able to raid when he spent weeks grinding, doing repetitive shit in Wildlands for trophies. That trophy addiction.
No,
Adam, he got you, son. He got you, son.
Just to complete a raid, it was to get the platinum in something. And when you complete a raid, that's not getting a platinum. That's just completing the raid, and you gotta, complete that and do other raids. This was just to get the platinum.
Yeah. So anyway, what's up with this Activision thing? Because I thought they did spend $500 million on this fucking game.
So did I. I thought that was everything: marketing, development.
Yeah.
All that shit.
So maybe he's confusing, saying that we're saying that just development of the game costs $500 million.
No, I mean that's everything. Like, but that's all money spent. Like if the advertising, hiring actors, and all that shit counts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this one of the developers says, he goes, for marketing, you'd have to ask Activision people, but for actual development costs, not anywhere close to $500 million.
Okay, but I didn't say it was just development. I said the entire cost
of it.
Yeah, it's an umbrella. Like again, with any game like GTA, I don't know how much just the development was, but you take in marketing, advertising, billboards, any type of contracts with fast food restaurants, things like that. That all counts.
Yeah. All right. And then his actual question is, all right, here is my question. This is a good one too, by the way. Why do platform holders, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, why do platform holders not develop an engine like Unreal 4 for their platform and provide developers with use of the engine for free to develop games for their platforms? Hold on, let me finish the question. He goes, it happens now and then with engines like Decima and Until Dawn and Death Stranding, but it doesn't happen often. So yeah, Manny, he's saying it does happen, but not often. You know, but what's the answer you're going to give?
Well, the original Gravity Rush used a free engine that you can download right now to develop any sort of game for any console. And that game,
but was that engine specific to PlayStation?
No, it wasn't.
That's his question.
It was an engine developed by Sony Europe as a platform to develop games for PlayStation, but it also is open so that it can be used on other things as well. So it was mainly made for Vita/PlayStation 4 development, but you can use it to make PC games and Xbox games.
I think it's tough just because of the resources you need. Like, I wouldn't expect anyone here go, okay, I'm going to defend Nintendo, guys. You'd have to have a team of developers to just make a house engine for the hardware, right? That means they're not working on titles, right? They have to hold up both ends. So they're making hardware, they're making software. But if they got to make a house engine, right, they develop a game off it and they go, okay, we're going to distribute this house engine. But they also have to make APIs for the system if the system does other things like it has a store, so they have to develop for that, whatever. That's a lot of work. And for Sony and Microsoft too, same thing. If they go, oh, we'll build Halo and we're going to give away the Halo engine, right? And you make anything off of it. But it's an FPS engine and I want to build a tactical RPG, I can't use it, right? So it's tough. Like Unreal can build all sorts of things. Unity can build all sorts of things. So, but the teams that work on that are focused on making it an engine that robust, right? That they are putting the manpower but that's all they do. To ask these companies to put manpower to build something like Unreal, I think the request is unreal because that would take a huge amount of extra resources that you're not putting in to a game, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
So the engine that I mentioned is called the Fiery engine. Some of the games that were developed on there was the Final Fantasy HD remaster. They also developed a Dragon Quest game. Gravity Rush is also developed on there. There are just a huge list of games coming all the way to 2017, which they still continue to update it, but it can be used for everything.
Yeah, Rich, what do you think, man?
Well, I have to agree with a lot with what Chris said. I think it's maybe a little too crazy to think that the actual, like Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo will actually put their resources into making that engine. One thing I did want to say with Unreal Engine 4, when I went to GDC, I saw a lot of games that are being developed in Unreal Engine 4. I know that the upcoming Switch game, Suda51's game, Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, that's being done in Unreal Engine 4. And the racing game that I just did a preview for, Gravel, that's also being done in Unreal Engine 4. So I thought Unreal Engine 4 was free. I don't know if it's still free. But yeah, I think it's like Chris said, I think it's a little unreal to think that the devs the studios can actually handle that stuff too. But if Unreal Engine 4 is free, I don't really see what the issue is. It's not really going to cost. More so for the people making the game, it'll cost them time. But if it's still free to a certain extent, I don't think it's going to cost them that much.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anybody else want to jump in on this? All right. We'll move on to Mr. All Day Digital. So his first question is, have you guys ever gotten into, this is a good one. Have you guys ever gotten into a serious argument or a physical altercation over video games?
Chris stabbed me in my apartment. We were arguing over, I think it was like ping pong shit. I was like, I don't like this fucking ping pong. And he's like, motherfucker, he cut me.
That's right. Yeah. I took the Magnavox, I broke it over my knee.
Now here's the funny thing. I heard a bunch of stories about this shit happening, but I've never seen it with my own eyes.
No.
Once,
Man, remember there was that video, the guy he posted a video that somebody was talking shit in Street Fighter online, and he said, where you at? And the guy was at the Chinese arcade. Remember the one,
the one downtown. Yeah.
Yeah, the one in downtown. It's called I forgot the name. Right? Yeah. So
Yeah, fair.
he was with his buddy, and the guy had his phone, and he filmed it. And he was like, "Oh, he's down there." So he was asking me. He went down there, and he was like, "Yo, what's he at?" He's like, "He's over there." He's like, "Yo, you want talking this shit?" He was like, "Wait, who are you?" And he just punched him in the face, and he filmed it.
Yo, okay.
Oh,
aside from that, the reason you really don't get this much often is because it's easy to talk shit online, right? When you get in somebody's face, is a different story, So that doesn't really happen. I've never experienced that shit. Like I guarantee you, all these motherfuckers that talk all this shit to me online, if they saw me, they wouldn't do any of that. As a matter of fact, some of the guys that I've met, in real life, I'm not gonna name names. They were totally different in front of me in real life. Ain't that something?
We know who too.
Yeah, I'm not saying names, but yeah. But no, I've never experienced that. Hey, Rich, man, what about you, man? Have you ever fucked anybody up over a video game?
Oh no, hey, no. Well, I haven't. There hasn't been any physical altercations, but I have had people come after my neck when they see that I review a game. And I do recall one incident in particular when I first joined the coalition. I wrote a review for Ballad of Gay Tony, and I believe at that time it was the biker game. I think it was called Liberty City Stories. I don't remember the exact name.
The Lost and Damned, yeah.
That's it. The combination of the two games. So
yeah.
That was actually one of the first games that I reviewed for the site. And, I thought the game was fantastic, so I gave it a high score. Sure enough, we had a guy who used to come to the site named Joe Killer. This guy started a feud with me over that review.
Oh, shit.
And then it became a situation where every time I reviewed something, whether it was good or bad, he just wanted to disagree every time. So it was very entertaining.
He was angry about a good review?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he said, no, come on, man. There's no way that game is that good. Because I gave it a really good score, but he said, there's no way it's that good. So it was
That's what your girl said. Oh.
but Joe Killer never came to your crib, right? Starting shit.
Oh no. Eventually we were cool. Eventually he started to say, okay, yeah, this guy is good. But no, there was never no personal altercations. I haven't heard of anything where there's a fight that actually takes place. Right. I haven't experienced that.
No, we know, me and Tony, known each other for years. I've gotten angry about certain stuff, but we've never gotten to fighting because why?
Yeah. What's that going to solve,
the only time I ever got really heated with somebody was because this fucker was cheating. Literally, he had this dude, our other friend, which we call Evil Chris, this dude had a fucking controller that he could instantly program moves in. So he had the Demon Rage from Street Fighter programmed in his fucking controller. He just pressed one button and bam, it just do it all the time. I'm like, motherfucker.
Yeah, the first I gotta tell the story. The first time he pissed me off, he wasn't using that controller, but he was talking a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
He talked so much shit that you got mad because basically these guys were playing Darkstalkers, and Manny, you were like, Manny, remember back in those days, you were a little bit arrogant back in those days, right? You talked a lot of shit yourself, so you were like, yeah, I'm the best at this game. I'm the best at this game. So he comes in, he beats the fuck out of you, and he beats you 3 rounds in a row. He's like, what happened? I thought you were good. And you got pissed, like, man, fuck you, and you left the house.
Yeah, I left the house, but hey, I didn't punch him in the face.
Wait, what house did I go? Was it Chris? Was it also Chris?
Hey,
wait, we have something related to that. Because was it the same Chris when I used to play FIFA and I had on my 3DO and you're like, yo, my boy said he's better than everybody. He can.
Oh yeah, Mike.
Mario, Mike. Yeah,
and then he was like, yeah, really? He's like, yeah. So I'm not playing. He's like, well, this is before online. And he's like, well, he said you have to go to his house. I'm like, then I'm going to his house. So you took me to this kid's house. His sister opens up the door. Oh, hi, Manny. It's like, who's this? It's my cousin. He needs to play Mike in FIFA. And then we went. I beat him 3 times in a row, and then we left.
Yeah. because he was like, oh yeah, I'm really good at this game, blah blah. And he was the only other dude who had a 3DO. It was me, Adam, and him. So
this isn't about video games, but it was also about Evil Chris, right? There was one time because he's that dude that could never be wrong about anything, right? And when you the madder you got at him, the more calmer he would get, which piss us the fuck off, right? So one time he was pulling that bullshit, man. I think you were there too, right?
Oh yeah, I was there.
He annoyed me so much. I wanted to punch him in the fucking face, and I was like, but then I was like, okay, in that instant before I let my punch hit, my mind said, Tony, that's your friend. So I punched my fan. A regular fan. I broke that shit into pieces.
It exploded.
Oh,
Just like, and he went like at the same time. He went like that when he did it. He let out this like monster grunt, like, and then the thing went.
Yeah, like I didn't know humans were capable of. I Hulk punched this thing, it just exploded. It
just exploded. Because the thing, I always say like because you pretty much your arms are your legs. So I mean like you punching a fan is almost like somebody kicking a fucking fan.
Yeah. So imagine if I would have
face,
I would have cracked his nose, man. Anyway, Brett, I'm going to go to you because you've been into a lot of fights in your life. Have any been about video games? Mr. Brett, are you talking to the crickets?
No, sorry, I was on mute. No, not really. I don't know. Like some of the more heated debates I've gotten on have probably been on the podcast, and a lot of times, like I don't fight over disagreements. I fight over people being shitty or people wanting to fight me. So like it's never been like like, oh, blah blah, you're just so wrong about this, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Most of the time it just kind of comes down to, okay, well, you're wrong and you're an idiot, you can't support your view, or you're going to talk me down and be like, okay, well, clearly I need to do my research. And those are pretty much the two outcomes. Like I get heated, but I'd like to think I don't turn into a knuckle dragging idiot. So no, like I've gotten to heated debates, but like I haven't ruined friendships or like gotten to fistfights over shit. I did almost punch my neighbor when I was a kid, because he hit the reset button on my original golden Zelda NES cartridge on my first playthrough, which I wasn't able to read at that point. So I was taking forever to get through the game. And he hit the reset button. And for those of you that don't know, that erased all your save files. Like you actually had to turn the gate power off and back on if you wanted to, like reload the game. You could not hit the reset button. So yeah, that was about the closest I ever got to beating somebody up over a video game, but that wasn't even an argument. So
yeah, Carlos, what about you, man? Any altercations?
Man, we like back like in the 360 days. Like I used to spend all the time in like Xbox live chats, and we used to always go at each other, man, over video games. But it's like always knew that like, oh, we're never gonna see each other in real life, so it's like kind of pointless. But yeah, that's pretty much as far as it went.
All right, man.
I mean, I want to add a little something.
I want to meet somebody that actually got into a physical fight,
I want to add a little something to this. Has anybody broken any? I mean, we've probably gotten this question before, but we've got a new cast of people here, kind of. Has anybody ever broken a controller or broken a console in anger because of a video game?
Can I give my answer first? Hell fucking no, because that shit's cost money. Yeah. I wanted to break them. I really wanted to break control, but it's like, Tony, that costs $60. No. Actually, yeah, Rich, why don't you answer that one? Because we've all answered this one before.
Well, yeah. When I was younger, I used to play a lot of games with my brother, and we used to have a lot of matchups against each other. Obviously, if somebody loses, they throw the controller down. I do recall one instance where I did break a controller. I don't really remember which game it was, but I just know I was furious because I was winning. Then all of a sudden he came back, so I wasn't happy about that.
Oh man!
Yeah, all right, just a controller, no console.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, console's too expensive, bro. All right. His last question is, I think we may have answered this one before, but I'm not sure. What video game character can you relate to the most?
Yeah, we've kind of gotten
we did this
before. Yeah. If we did, okay, I guess we could skip it. I don't remember my answer.
Well, I mean, we could always answer it again. It doesn't hurt. So
okay, yeah, just quickly, one word answer, then we'll move on. I think I said I don't relate to any video game character. Yeah, I think that was my answer.
I said the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing too.
Yeah, Carlos.
Nope. Right. I can't really think of anybody.
Yeah. Adam.
Guitar Hero Man? I don't know. Nobody.
Guitar
Hero
Man?
Man.
Yeah, Guitar Hero Man.
Bringing it back, Brett.
What is the Fallout 4 protagonist called?
The Soul Survivor or something like that?
Is he the lone hunter or the sole survivor? I think he's the sole survivor. Yeah.
The lone survivor, maybe.
Yeah. Whatever. Like at this point in time, him. Because
Okay.
I woke up and my wife is dead, and I walk through a living dystopian nightmare every day.
Damn.
Damn.
Brutal. And Rich, man, what about you?
Yeah, I also have to say no. It's it's totally different. These characters in these games, they're just the characters. We don't be going through real life stuff like we go through. So I don't think I relate to anybody.
Well, that's why. You know what this brings back? That old question when back in the day when we were growing with D&D. Remember, and they kept saying, "Oh, you can't play D&D because then you're gonna get all brainwashed, and you're gonna think that you're really those characters that you create and stuff." And I remember there was a after-school special that they did one where these two guys and they went on some date with some girls, and then one of the girls talking crazy, and then the guy leaned over. He's like, "Well, if my level something character was here, he wouldn't have taken that shit. He would have put her in her place." And this whole thing, it was weird. But I'm like, who does that? I was like, I've never come across anybody, and I played a lot of D&D that was like, yeah, I wish I was my D&D guy now and talking crazy. I don't know.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
All right. And the last questions here are from Black Metal Gamer. By the way, bro, do me a favor. Do not ask those questions at the last fucking minute, man. And also put both your questions in the same post, because sometimes it's hard for me to find, because he does 2 separate posts for each question. Just put them in the same one, man. Makes it easier for me,
Yeah.
All right, so his first question is, do you think classic retro streaming or downloading apps will ever happen? For instance, a Capcom app full of their games, or kind of like how Sega Forever has their mobile services full of classics. Would there be room or care for that in the future? If Sega Forever takes off, I guess, For you guys who don't know, Sega Forever is a mobile app that lets you play old Sega games, So he's asking, would there be a demand for this?
Why didn't they just call it Sega Channel?
Yeah, I don't know.
Shit. I guess no, I agree with you. Like if Sega Forever takes off, other guys would emulate it. Capcom has mobile games out. Square has mobile games out. So I don't see if that works out for them, then sure. I don't see guys wouldn't copy it if there's a chance to make money.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess you could also tie this into, the NES Classic and SNES Classic doing so well. Like maybe, yeah, I think people like playing their old shit, man. If you offer them old games for $1 on mobile, they'll go for it,
Yeah.
Blades of Steel.
Blades of Steel.
Yeah, anybody else want to jump in on that?
That's a negative.
All right, let's move on to the very last question, man. All right. If Doom and Wolfenstein sell well on the Switch, do you think Bethesda will port other old games like Dishonored or Fallout 4? And do you think other companies will gravitate back to Nintendo for making third-party deals? Chris, I'm going to go to you first, man.
Yeah, that's why they're putting out these games. They're giving Nintendo one new, brand new game, right? That's Wolfenstein, because that hasn't come out on anything yet. And Doom, a fairly new game, and one old game. If Skyrim, I'll say this: if Skyrim sells well, then I'd see Bethesda embracing them more and putting out Fallout 4, right? Because it's the same engine, so it'll be easier for them to port that over. And with Doom and Wolfenstein, yeah, that will be the catalyst for other guys in the same developing the same space. So Activision and EA, with their first-person shooters, it's like, oh shit, maybe if we put Call of Duty on there, maybe things have turned around. There's enough market share that if Doom and Wolfenstein sell over a threshold, right, that it's viable. And I've been saying that since the beginning. You have to sell a certain amount, and then you look viable. So that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah, I agree.
I
Yeah,
think that Skyrim is going to sell well.
No, I said if it sells well.
No, I'm asking the question. Like, does anyone think that Skyrim will sell well?
No.
I don't really think so.
I don't
Depends on
think
the
so.
people that are gonna play it. Depends. I don't know.
What,
I
are we
think-
talking about for the Switch?
yeah.
Oh, I think it will.
Why?
Because I think there are a lot of people who want to take Skyrim on the go with them.
Laugh at me all you want. We'll see what the sales charts say, and I'll
Yeah, I guess.
say that I'm right again quietly again.
I don't know, Brett, because it's this old ass game. It looks the shittiest on Switch. Like, why? Like,
Why would it look the shittiest on Switch? This motherfucker was on PS3.
I mean, has the shovelware from the rest of the Switch lineup sold well? Like, I've only seen like first party stuff that sold like really well.
I've actually heard a lot of people excited about it. And to be honest, I'm not really entirely sure why. The answer I always get is like, you can take Skyrim with you, and I was like, yeah, no, I mean it's the same Skyrim, and they're like, yeah, I put like 300 hours into that game. I was like, okay, I mean.
Brett, cool. I need to be that guy, right? I hate to be that guy right now, but who is saying this? And please don't say the Nintendo fanboys on the forums.
Well, depends on what forums, but I know a couple people. I don't want to throw out names on.
You don't need to throw out names. You said they're taking it on the go, right? And we talked about this before, where you prefer playing it connected. You don't really like the way the Joy-Cons feel and holding it up for long periods of time. Something like that requires long periods of time of playing just to do these missions. Yeah, so I just can't imagine.
You know that you don't have to play it holding it, right? Like even when you take it away with you.
Take it away and then still be mobile. But that's it. The whole thing is being mobile. I just don't.
You're still mobile. You go somewhere and put it on a table.
Exactly. But that's it. We had talked about this before about playing on the bus and on the train and those that's mobile. That's like when you see someone playing a game on their phone while they're holding on to a pole. That's mobile. You know,
so what is it
on the table? If you're putting on a table, then I can bring my PlayStation to my buddy's house because most likely he has a TV where there's a table, and I can plug the shit in there.
Okay, I mean, you can keep saying that all you want, and Switch is going to keep selling. And if you listen to you guys, it's this weird mystery. And I keep telling everybody.
It's going to keep selling, but we just saw that poll the other day. Then
why are they selling?
It's
not just because of first-person games. It is not just because of first-party games.
But I don't know how this divulges into why the Nintendo Switch is selling. Like, this is a completely different conversation.
Because when everybody I talk to, including like the gaming, I'm not on Nintendo Switch forums. I'm on gaming. I'm on fucking just the general consensus from Reddit gaming. And I'm not gonna say that's the end all be all, but it's one of the biggest fucking gaming forums on the internet. There's a lot of people who are genuinely excited to be able to play Skyrim on their Switch. There are. I don't know why. I don't know the science behind it. I don't know why the ability to take it with them is important. And if Adam, if you want to argue with them, be like, well, that's not portable.
I just don't see how that would work, and how that would be enjoyable. But you even said you don't see it, but yet you're defending it. It's my point. If you don't see it, then we both agree that we don't see it. But
it's still going to sell. It's still going to sell.
We'll see.
Just because of the fact.
How much are they selling it for?
I'm pretty sure full price.
50 or 60.
Wow. For an old ass game, man.
I mean, they were selling Bomberman for like $60. So.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like, why would I don't get it. I really don't get it. Why would you buy these old ass games when you could already buy them on a more powerful system, you know?
Can't wait for Darksiders to come out.
So tell me something. If you already didn't buy the remastered edition, how is this the least powerful version?
Because so you're telling me that it's comparable to the PlayStation 4, Xbox, PC, really, Brett?
No, I'm telling you that it is better than the PlayStation 3.
Are you sure about that? Is there a link?
The system has higher specs than the PS3, so...
The Switch has higher specs than the PS3?
Yes, but lower than the PS4.
Chris, is that true? That don't sound right to me. I thought the Switch was weaker than a PS3.
Yeah, it's apples and oranges with it's comparing the Cell... Power PC to a Tegra is weird, but the Tegra X one is not. It's still Maxwell. It's still pared down. So I don't think the Switch is as power. It's like maybe slightly less.
I feel free to somebody prove me wrong on this. I'm pretty sure I read like it could run things better than the PS3 and last generation Xbox, but doesn't run up to snuff with the current generation. But on a game that's last generation on we were introduced to Skyrim on a PS3, so if you can bring that kind of on par experience to the Switch, that's a fully fledged game, and it comes with all the DLC, and it allows you to take it on a road trip or take it to your cousin's house or wherever the fuck that you want to. I'll ask this: do you think the NVIDIA Shield
was comparable to a PS3 or 360, or the Ouya.
No.
Well, then the Switch isn't.
It's the
Is
same.
the Switch?
Yes, it's the same guts. It's the same guts. It's a Tegra X1 SoC. It's the same thing. So the things that Nintendo's doing with it are very good. It's impressive, but it's not. If the Ouya couldn't compare with a PS3, then the Switch can't. It's impossible.
Okay, well then clearly I underestimated the Ouya.
Okay.
I still have my Ouya.
God.
I mean, I'm just shocked and surprised that this thing can run Skyrim, like the full version of Skyrim. I'm shocked that they're able to put Doom on this thing. Like, if they're able to get that level of performance out of it, then okay, I would
never of performance because they haven't even said how many frames a second Doom runs at, man.
Even if it runs at 30.
Yeah, but that's lesser than even the consoles now, man. Both Xbox One and PS4 run it at 60, man.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't be surprised if an Ouya could run the Doom at 30 frames per second.
That's not to say it's exactly like the Ouya. I said it's the same guts, right? So with enhancements. So like I said, they enhance the hardware, they put optimizations on it and stuff, but it's the same basic thing, you know. So to say the Ouya is as powerful as a PS3, well, A, you'd have to benchmark the stuff, and B, you'd have to compare apples to apples, right? So but you can't, because what Bethesda is going to create and make this engine to run on the Tegra is not the same engine that is running on PS3. It's not the same engine that's running on PS4 or Xbox One right now. It's not. They can't just take it and compile it and put it on the Tegra. They have to do all sorts of stuff, and they have to make all sorts of compromises. Remember, the Switch has half the RAM of either system, and Xbox One's going to have 12 gigs, so it's even less than what current gen. And,
no, I'm not saying it stands up to current gen. I never said that. I want to make that very clear. I never said it was anywhere comparable. The Switch is in no way comparable to the Xbox One or the PS4. I want to make that clear enough. But I will say this: who wants to bet me? Who wants to bet me that Skyrim will show up on NPDs?
Did they say if
really?
Skyrim
Are you sure? Okay, let's go. Let's go right
now. One thing I want to know is.
Oh no! I ain't taking a bet with you, Tony. You back out.
No. You're going with Carlos. Do it, man. I'm not making
one question though. One question, because many of you guys know this. All right, so you know that the 2K18 requires a memory card, right? Another additional memory card in order for it to run.
Yeah,
they can't install.
Yeah.
Do they know if Skyrim? Because that's a lot of content.
Yeah, and remember that save the save data thing that would happen in that game that used to happen on PlayStation 3, where it was like the game would replacing and moving items all over the place would fill up so much of the memory, would cause a lot of your save data to be corrupted or game crashes. Have they fixed those things?
Huh, I don't know. Well, I mean, I always call it Bethesda under QA is poor. So if that happens, that's on them, because it's a horrible.
Yeah, that wouldn't be Nintendo's fault. But anyway, let's go back though. So Carlos and Brett, you guys gonna do a bet? What's the bet?
Well, when does it come out?
Comes out November, so I would bet that it shows up in December's.
In December's, but it comes out in November.
Yeah, no. Remember, November MPDs are
right
in December.
Month, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that like it'll be out for a month and a half. Okay. Okay. Top 10 or what?
Yeah, just cracking the top 10.
Okay.
What are the stakes?
$1,000.
Come on, son.
Yeah. Damn.
Really?
I'm trying to think.
What else
realistic, please, realistic. No.
What else comes out?
I know you got money. Brett ain't got you.
Wait, you said November, right? We already know all the big titles that are coming out across all platforms in November.
So it's got to beat out
top 10.
It's got to beat out Mario. It's got to beat out Call of Duty.
Hey, Brett has a lot of faith in Switch, man.
Got to be out FIFA.
I think I don't think it's a lot of faith to say it's going to crack the top 10.
Dude, compared to those heavy ass games in November, I don't know. Hey,
look at how much GTA sells.
But you can't compare.
GTA, bro. That's GTA. A different story, man.
And also, it's got to compete with Mario Odyssey. That will probably be on there. Like, it has too much competition in holiday, right? Like, you got to realize Switch will be on there, but not for that game. Definitely for
Mario
Mario
Odyssey is
Kart.
going to be in November, but I guarantee you that.
Guaranteed
2K, I
that,
wouldn't be
yeah, so-
surprised. 2K18 for the Switch is up there, even with that extra memory card. I think people will buy it because
Well,
that's a full
they'll
team.
have
That's a full
NBA,
experience.
but they'll have NBA 2K for all the platforms, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
they
but
would.
for that one, I think it might do something. I mean, a lot of people are going to buy it and probably
NBA
not
2K is
realize.
going to be all of them are going to get lumped
Yeah.
together. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, they all
So-
get linked together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, listen, I'm not telling you not to do it, but I'm just saying that ain't gonna happen. You know, Mario Odyssey alone is gonna guarantee that
Oh, yeah.
Skyrim won't be on that shit.
Oh
you
man,
know?
by the
LA
way-
Noir will also be on there.
And by the way, Brett, you're betting against
That same month.
the guy who made a bet against Tony and Chris, saying that Zelda was gonna outsell Horizon. So
Yeah, he did beat us, didn't he? You know.
That's why I'm saying I'm willing to throw a $20 PSN card down on this shit.
There you go. See,
just $20 in general, I'm cool.
Yeah, you see, Carlos, reasonable. I know you got juice like that, man. Not the rest of us. You
I
know?
have faith in my prediction, man.
Shit. Anyway, Rich, what do you think about this? I know you guys talked about this on the co-op last week, I believe, about third parties and Switch and all that. So, do you think if Doom and Wolfenstein are successful, do you think more third parties are gonna hop on Switch?
I think it's possible. It all depends on how the games perform on the actual platform. I know Chris mentioned on the last Throwdown that we know Bethesda with the issues they have with bugs, and I think some people should still be skeptical about Wolfenstein looking and performing exactly as it will perform on the consoles on the Switch. So I think it depends on how those games actually turn out. But if they turn out great, then yeah, I think Nintendo Switch is definitely going to get a lot of third-party support.
Yeah, and then obviously the question is if it does get a lot of third-party support. I'm not doubting that. People go where money is. How well will these ports be? That's what I want to know. I guess Doom and Wolfenstein are going to answer that, and Skyrim will answer that too. So we don't really know yet because it's like, okay, you have these games coming out, but if they run and look like shit, what's the point?
Well, I don't think Skyrim is a good barometer.
Yeah, Skyrim looked like shit when it was new.
Yeah, and it's an old ass game. Like Wolfenstein and Doom are better.
Yeah. Let's go for those then. Yeah, Skyrim. I don't think Skyrim's even going to make.
I'm just curious how well first-person shooters will do on the Switch. That would be a good metric to look at these two games.
Yeah,
because I can't think of one on the Switch right now. Right? Is Splatoon first or third person?
Third person.
Third person.
So there isn't one. Okay, sorry, this will be the first. I'm just saying. Look at it. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not hating right now. Everybody jumps down my throat.
Yeah, and not to sidetrack it, but Brett, I didn't back out of the bet, bro. You technically lost that VR bet, man. VR fucking failed, bro. Come on, man.
Oh yeah, I was right on that too.
Yeah, VR crashed and burned.
Dude, the bet was whether they would have a strong showing at that A3, and they did.
No, it wasn't. The bet was, will this be popular among the masses? And I said, no, it wouldn't. It would sell 1 million, and that's it. And that's exactly what happened.
The way that we established the metric of the bet was whether they were going to have a strong showing at next year's E3, and they did.
Yeah, but that wasn't what I was betting. I was saying it's not going to be a pop mass. It's not going to reach that cultural zeitgeist. That's what I said.
Yeah,
so,
and we agreed to how do you define how do you define or categorize what has become a cultural zeitgeist, and we agreed on whether or not it becomes a big showing at E3.
I didn't agree on that. I agreed on sales. That's what I agreed on.
We should run that show back.
Yeah, we got to run it back, or we get all that shit in writing because everybody has their own definition of what's.
Go back and listen to these shows. So we need to settle this fucking bet because I think we were betting on two completely different metrics, man. Because they were showing VR shit this year's E3. Doesn't mean VR is still viable. VR is fucking dead. VR was dead since it was announced.
I think the only one that's actually doing well is the View one, the one that has the attachments on the walls and stuff.
Which one is that?
People are praising that one.
No, the only VR that's sold
the Vive.
Well.
Vive.
No.
Is the one
PSVR outsold it. PSVR outsold because it was the cheapest one, and even that shit's not doing well now,
What was even the LA Noir? The LA Noir is coming for the Vive. It's not coming to.
Yeah, we'll see how well that does. By the way, they lowered the price of the Vive by $200, but it's still $600.
Also, Tony, I'm sure that Bethesda threw in their weight behind VR because it's dead. I'm sure their market analysts know. know
No,
that shit is dying.
they're just jumping in, bro. They're just jumping in just to test the waters, man. This shit is done just because Bethesda threw the money at this. I mean, it's going to magically be a success. Come on,
There's a
man.
big difference
production
between
for a while.
there's a big difference between a big success and dead in the water.
Dude, Facebook, how much money did they invest into this shit? Like $1 billion? Where did that go? You know, that shit didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, because it spies on you. It literally spies on your eyes when you use it.
The point is, just because a big company makes a big investment doesn't mean it's going to be successful. You know, that's all I'm saying. You know, just because Bethesda's making some VR games doesn't mean it's suddenly going to be selling 3 million fucking VR units overnight. You know what I'm saying?
By the way,
I didn't say that.
I want to say who called that one. Who told people that they were going to read eye movements when Facebook bought Oculus?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
right.
That's crazy. All right, I think that's going to do it for the show. So a couple of things here. So this is going to be cool. So starting on Thursday, we're going to be broadcasting Throwdown on both YouTube and Twitch, man.
Dun, dun, dun.
And the best part is we don't have to do too much shit on our end. We can still use Google Hangouts and stuff. And Manny's whipping up some cool graphics for us too, make it all fancy.
Figure out something really nice so we could have a you know, our little bits of Twitter stuff. You know, I'm of course not trying to overload the information that's on our screen, and it also will run in a higher frame rate and look a little bit better than our current stream rate looks.
Yeah,
right
if you
now.
guys saw that little test me, Manny, and Carlos did, that should look nice. You know,
and the voice quality was actually a lot better than it is currently. So
Wait, so we're not using Discord anymore?
No, not for that. We'll use Discord when we play games, but for throwdowns, we're still on here, you know?
Oh, okay.
Because it's easier for us. We can't really use Skype. Skype is kind of fucked up. And I like the fact that Google Hangouts puts our entire face here, you know what I'm saying? Not just little boxes and shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be cool. But yeah, for you guys, you don't need to do anything on your end. Obviously, everything's normal, you know? And that'll be cool. So we're going to start that. Because again, I'm just being honest right now. I haven't exactly been happy with the subscriber count on Twitch. I assume like, hey, we got 1,200, almost 1,300 on YouTube. At least a few hundred of those motherfuckers are gonna follow us on Twitch. That didn't happen. It's only like 40 guys, you know. So I'm like, okay, let's have the main show over there and see if that helps us, you know, get bigger over there, you know.
I think in general, at least with Twitch, it's really just about more consistency and more content.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those guys have just kind of put everything into their Twitches. You know, see a lot more streams and things happening on there.
Yeah, Kristen says you guys should be able to do overlays in your stream on Twitch. Exactly. That's going to be awesome, you know. So yeah, it'll be that. So that's that. And then speaking about, you know, videos and stuff, watch our latest gameplay videos. We got 2 of them right now. We played some more GTA. Brian joined us the other night. That was a lot of fun. And I did one yesterday for Dragon Ball Z Fighters, man. That was a lot of fun too, you know. A little bit unexpected because I went in there expecting to completely get my ass destroyed. I did pretty well. I won pretty much every other round. Today I got my fucking ass destroyed though. I think everybody learned how to play that game. You know. So yeah, man, big things. 3 years in, man, we're still doing it on Throwdown, man. Always changing shit. I love it, you know. So I want to thank Richard for joining us tonight, man. Richard, I hope you had fun with us with the Throwdown crew, brother.
Oh yeah, it's always a good time. Very fun. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. You know how it is, man. Your family, bro. You know, you already know, man. Family. So please let people, you know, just plug your shit, man. Where can people find you? What's coming up on the coalition? All that, man.
All right, so yes, if you want to find me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is Rich Bailey Jr. Jr. As for the coalition, there's a lot of stuff in the works. I'll give a shout out right now to Mr. Jake James Lugo because his Destiny 2 review is on the site now.
Right.
I actually have a preview for Shadow of War, which is dropping tomorrow, so definitely look for that. But yeah, we have a lot of things we're working on. There's a game that I've been wanting to talk about that I haven't been able to talk about. I will finally be able to talk about that on Tuesday, so look for that also. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Stay checking out the show and continue to check out the Throwdown.
Yeah, and check out the co-op. You all got episode 220 coming up, you know.
yes.
Please check that out, man. I caught a little bit of it today. You know, you guys, it was like the very beginning. So I was like, you guys are going to get into some shit today, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a very controversial episode. So I guess I'm very curious to see what people say about the discussions we had. So
definitely, man. Also, I forgot to say this. I'm going to stream Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite again. This time tomorrow, I'll be able to stream whatever the fuck I want. You know, I'm not going to be restricted, you know. Oh, by the way, Manny, somebody talked a little bit of shit about you on the last stream, man. They were like,
oh, yeah?
Yeah, they said, oh, it sounds like that other guy has never played a Versus game in his life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I replied with him, like, Tony and Emilio have been playing Versus games since X-Men vs. Street Fighter.
Yeah. It sounds like I haven't played a Versus game in my life. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wonder what he took issue with.
You know how it is on the internet, but the thing is, like, no explanation. All he goes, oh, his exact phrasing was, he's never played a crossover game in his life.
Man,
I was like, nigga, I'm probably I got a crossover. I've been playing crossover games before you probably were even alive.
Yeah,
let's put it that way.
You know, oh man, it's good when Manny gets heat too, man. You've been like, everyone's left you alone for too long, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but you know, don't fuck with me.
Yeah, oh.
Yo, all right, man. So.
I have to give one final thought because I got to head off a problem before next week's Throwdown Your Questions. Because I know somebody's going to scream that I compared the Switch to an Ouya and how insulting that is and how it'll make them angry. I said they're basically the same guts, okay? Not that they're the same thing. They didn't just pull the board out of an Ouya and put it and gave it a screen.
It's the same thing. You said it's the same thing, Chris.
No.
Why you hating? Why you hating?
See,
Why you
I'm trying to head off this problem. So I said they have the same basic core, but they're not the same thing. Okay, I want to make that clear. The Switch is definitely better than an Ouya.
You need to be fired from Throwdown, motherfucker. You disrespected Nintendo.
Oh yeah, exactly. My first write up on Coalition, they wanted me to get fired. I'm like, this is the first thing I ever wrote.
They're like, what? You should be fired for saying such things.
I should be fired and write an apology letter to Nintendo, no less.
That's what they said. Yeah, that's what they said. Nintendo's not even looking. It's like, whatever.
I'm like, yeah. How do you write an apology letter to a whole corporation?
Dear corporation, I apologize for my discretions.
You just talk to them like people, Chris.
I talk to everyone like people. I go to Japan, just meet everyone.
No. Remember, corporations are people now. So you address them.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I'm sure if he did go to Reggie or something like that, he'd instantly talk over Chris.
Yes.
Reggie talks through you, man. I mean, if you ever talk to this man face to face, it's an experience. It's weird.
Oh man. All right, man. So let's wrap it up. So thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section of this episode on YouTube or on the Coalition. We'll answer them on next week's show. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. Follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, our show is Tony Polanco. Joined by Emilio Lopez.
Thank you, guys. It's what is it? The 150th episode of Throwdown. 150th episode, Throwdown Your Questions. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing and listening to our show. Here's to another 150 episodes.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
I also forgot to mention that I've been a PSN Plus member for several years and that I bought a PSVR.
Why you hating though, man?
I'm so biased.
Stop hating.
You hate it strong. It makes me uncomfortable.
What is this? Who are you?
I need to go to bias therapy, man.
Yo, all that shit you talked about PSP Go, man. What the fuck?
I know, man. That made me uncomfortable.
I got triggered, you know.
Yeah, man.
Hey, Carlos, haven't you read the trigger word of a pamphlet that we gave out to every single person on this show?
Man, you know I'm not good at doing admin stuff, man.
Right. Brett Murdoch.
Speaking of PS Plus, their free games have gone to shit. I just
Man.
this is Everybody Now game or whatever the fuck, this like free smartphone party game. Really? That's your free fucking game, Sony? Fuck you.
Yep.
That was at E3, by the way.
I need to point out the fact that what Brett just said will not be heard by any of the haters. He just talks shit about Sony. Something that we've been saying for 2 years about those shitty ass PSN games. No one's gonna pay attention to that part.
No,
But if
they've
you
got
say
it markedly worse. That's my beef.
God. Yeah, because now they have these shitty mobile games. Like, what the fuck are you doing,
Yeah,
man?
no, not only shitty mobile games, but they've completely removed your ability to get to them easily in the store and buried them under other shit. There's no easy place to just go be like, here's all your PS Plus games for the month. You have to sort through a bunch of other bullshit. You know what you're doing, Sony, and I don't fucking appreciate it.
Motherfuckers. And Adam Vale.
Keep watching that Lucha Underground. Still going.
Forever.
It's still going. I'm scared. We haven't heard anything about the next season, but yeah, this might be
Call
it.
up Robert Rodriguez, man.
All right, man. We'll see you on Throwdown, man. Episode 151, man. Later.
See ya.
People.
See everybody.